do you want to talk about this Western model of overemphasizing this self-sacrificing martyrdom for motherhood? So this idea of constricting your whole, limitless human potential spirit in the temple of a body into this just one role, one label, one archetypal conditioning, there's ways that it can be problematic. For instance, I've known women who are internalizing and reinforcing patriarchy, saying that because you're a mom, you must absolutely do one thing. And we can look at this through different cultural dynamics. So I read an article and I'll post it, where they were talking about people from different countries making fun of people in the U.S. because they've noticed on social media people would be like, oh my God, somebody left the kid in a car for 2 minutes. And I'm not saying that it isn't something that you need to be really conscientious of, not leaving your child in a hot car, for instance. But you're talking about cultures where, their first graders are getting on the train and taking it across town because it's perfectly safe, or they're going to the corner store and they're buying what they want on their own. And it would be completely unfathomable to a culture that essentially babies and drastically, I love the term spoiled rotten, because I think there is a rotten context in a lot of Americans. And I think it does come from this context of spoiling. And I don't think it's the mother's fault. I think it's the whole system that uses mothers as, I say they use mothers as trash cans, right? Every judgment you have, the constant parenting of the parent, right? They offer you no aid, but they have always an opinion on how you're doing. And the way that you internalize these constant streams of criticism is that you need to be hyper attentive and hyper aware and a bit of a helicopter parent, which diminishes independence, it diminishes innovation and creativity in the child, it diminishes a sense of self-confidence in the child when you behave as if this one older human is responsible for every thought, movement, or need of this one smaller human who, I don't know, potentially has perfectly good reasoning skills and even sometimes much more innovative ideas than people 3 times their age. So it's an epidemic. I definitely believe that. Mothers are constrained to some of the worst conditions. I've been studying social justice for my lifetime. My mom is a well-known international feminist. And I don't think I've read one time a reference to single mothers as a socially oppressed group. So there's a huge lack of visibility on what's happening in terms of the struggle, and yet there's a lot of internal conditioning about how we're treating mothers. And then they're walking around thinking that there's only one way they can be. They can be constantly combating everybody's lower opinion of how they're doing. They cannot be artists, they cannot be activists, they cannot be scholars, they cannot be, they have to fight for the right to be anything along with being mothers. And I think it's time for us to stop because, what do they say, like, happy mommy, happy baby? The more that we start denigrating the mothers, the harder the experience of the children are, the more you get adults that lack certain maturation qualities that create a collective condition of being super destructive to each other and the earth.